Hi everyone, this is Jason from spiritualbabies.net. I'm here with Jono from truth2you.org. We've been having conversations for a while now over certain memes which pop up in our feed. Memes which sometimes make us a little bit annoyed because they either quote out of context, or they just don't bother about context, or they just don't bother about even quoting correctly from the Tanakh. And we've been wondering how we can make those into an interesting show.
Well, you know what? It was Anna, and g'day to Anna. Anna sent me a message, and she said, "Shalom, Jono. I came across 119 video, a 119 video on Facebook, and I wonder if you can invite your guests to talk about this topic in your program. I would really like to get some facts, though it's difficult, on the shield of David." What do we really know about this topic? So it's not like you and I, we don't really do this kind of thing where we take other people's stuff and critique it, I suppose, is what we're about to do. Is that what we're going to do?
I think it's fair. We're going to discuss the ideas that are put forward in the video.
Yeah, okay. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do that. It's not something that we've really done on a regular basis before. Have we ever done this before?
No, I don't think so. No, we've done it with the New Testament, but not with someone else's interpretation of it.
No. Now, first of all, off the bat, is it worth mentioning? I think we have mentioned 119 before, but not as a focus of a particular study. And I do believe we've mentioned, just to give them credit, they make some really nice, shiny videos, right?
Yeah, they do. Now, and to be fair, I think it's fair to say that there are possibly whole videos that they've made which you might not have much of a problem with. They talk about some elements of Jewish life which they give quite a fair interpretation of, but the problem, if you can call it a problem, is that there are some areas where it just veers off into the Twilight Zone, and I think this may be one of those subjects.
This one definitely. Now, again, ordinarily we don't do this sort of stuff, but when Anna brought this to my attention, I watched it, and after it goes for something like 15 minutes, this video that they have on the Star of David, and after watching it, I thought, you know what, this probably does require addressing. So, how shall we begin with this?
I think, well, we've both made notes, and those notes are probably chronological. The first thing I'd ask people to do is to consider their own relationship with this symbol. Do they? Because I think what the problem in the video is that they cite this shape as something that has a cult power in itself, something that you shouldn't have around you. It could be dangerous. It could change your life. It's not a good symbol of a faithful life. But in my experience, I've never met anyone who prays to the Star of David or who looks at it in some sort of spiritual way. And it's quite.
I've never met anybody who worships the Star of David.
So I think it's pretty important, because I know this conversation might veer off later on into other areas. I certainly hope it does. But it's very important to remember that this is just a shape, and that the world is full of shapes. Nature is full of shapes. You give a kid a crayon, after a period of time, he's going to accidentally probably come up with the Star of David. So we have made notes. I think we should probably just talk through our notes. If people want to go and check out their video after, they're free to. Okay,
so the video begins. Are we going to put a link to the video? Do we want to subject people to that? I guess we'll leave it up to them. But the video begins with him, the narrator of the video. What is he doing? He's already apologizing for what he's about to say, and because he already understands it's going to be very offensive. And look, I have to admit, I did find it offensive. I found it downright anti-Semitic. I don't know about you, Jason. What do you think?
I did. It was offensive. It was also offensive that the perspective he was coming from was that people looked at this thing in some sort of magical way, that it had some sort of special power, and that the idea that people wouldn't just accept it as what it was, that was offensive to me, that people were so dumb that they didn't just say, that's a symbol that represents a family line or a country. That was offensive to me. Also, what was offensive to me is something we'll get onto later, is that if ever this comes up, this shape, anywhere in nature, science, history, or religion, evil thing. That was offensive to me. I can't, I'm sorry. I'm not going to laugh. For the rest of this thing, it's going to be very serious.
No, I can tell you right now it's not. So it's the image of the star appears early on in the video. And the thing that I immediately found interesting is that the first time that we see it centered and focused upon in the video, I don't know if you noticed this, but it's over a lake of fire. Did you see that?
Yep. And then they repeat the image.
You did notice it?
I did. And they repeat the image with a gargoyle devil inside the star too. There are plenty of other images they use, but they really focus on the ones that they want you to pay attention to at the beginning and plant the seed. They
do their best to demonize the hexagram. Now that goes on for about 3.5 minutes is the build-up of this video. It just goes on. But at 3.5 minutes, Jason, the video states, quote, "Proving the origins of the Star of David is quite difficult." And in my opinion, that's probably where they should have rolled the credits and finished the video, because what they're really saying is, we don't have any proof for what we're about to say. Now, this is interesting because 119 Ministries, their catchphrase, their motto, if you like, is, what is it, Jason?
It's test everything.
Test everything. They have nothing to go on here. It is speculation. It is absolutely speculation. But at minute 3.5, as I said, proving the origin of the Star of David is quite difficult. It continues saying some of the earliest usage found in a Jewish context. Oh, this is great. I really enjoyed this, I have to say. Some of the earliest usage found in the Jewish context is from the 3rd, 4th centuries in a synagogue in Galilee. Now, do you know what synagogue that is?
Is it called the Black Synagogue or the White Synagogue? It's the one with the very special stones.
There it is. So it's actually, yeah, that's right. It's the synagogue at Capernaum. Now, the reason why I found this amusing is because, for a number of reasons. I've actually been there a couple of times. The synagogue at Capernaum, there are many rock carvings, decorations. There are vine leaves. They're really very good. Pomegranates. There are fig leaves. There are other geometric designs such as 5-pointed stars, a pentagram. There's the hexagram. There's even, get this, a repeated pattern that is made out of the swastika. It's actually called a meander. But that pattern is there as well. There are eagles. There's also, if I remember correctly, I do believe there is a menorah. There are very impressive patterns in the rock carvings there at the synagogue of Capernaum.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that synagogue is on the position of the synagogue that Jesus was supposed to have taught in, but isn't the synagogue that Jesus was supposed to have taught in. That was destroyed and this one was rebuilt. It's a 3rd century synagogue, right?
Right, yeah, I see your point. But maybe it's the site.
It is
maybe it's older than that. I think, but this is supposed now. Speaking of the Capernaum synagogue and what Jesus said there, what he taught there, but and my point really just that other stuff. There's a whole lot of other decorations. They just choose to focus on this one, saying that this is whatever. But it's John chapter 6. John chapter 6. That gives us an insight as to what Jesus said at the synagogue in Capernaum. It says, Jesus said, and he lost a lot of groupies there because he said some really crazy stuff. From verse 53, he declared, "Most assuredly I say to you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life. I will raise him up on the last day. For my flesh is food indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. He who eats my flesh and drinks my blood abides in me. I in him. You. So and it goes on to say, he who feeds on me will live forever. These things he said in the synagogue as he taught in Capernaum. That's verse 59. 60. Therefore, many of his disciples, when they heard this, said, this is pretty weird. This is hard. This is hard stuff. It's a bit rough. Who can understand it? And verse 66, from that time, many of his disciples went back and walked with him no more, right? Wise, those ones. And then my point is that if there's anything, if there's something that should be related to the synagogue of Capernaum that we should be worried about, I think that probably takes the cake.
What's interesting for me is that 119 focuses on this one Jewish connection, and then that they pull in stuff from Hinduism and Middle Eastern occultism and European black magic and occultism, and they show the use of the hexagon in those formats. And somehow the use of the hexagon in those formats means that the use of the hexagon as the sign for the state of Israel is bad and evil, when it's worth mentioning that you'll find many different geometric shapes used in occultism and in Hinduism, and you go to Tibet and through India and Pakistan, you'll find shapes everywhere. And these shapes will be found in stained glass windows, in any number of temples, churches, and gravestone designs, and all kinds of things in architecture, and they're not being listed as problems. But the big trip for me was when they decided, well, we don't really have an argument against the hexagram, the Star of David, sorry, we're going to go for the hexagram that's in the middle. That's going to be the focal point. And what they didn't do...
Oh, so what we need to... So you've got the triangles that come down, one pointing up, one pointing down, and this is the shape that makes the hexagram, the six-pointed star. But in the middle of the hexagram is a hexagon, and a hexagon is that sort of stop sign shape.
Sure, yeah, it's a six-sided shape. It's worth mentioning that most scholars believe that the hexagram is used for the House of David because of the two triangles, the D and the D of David that are joined together.
The Dalits, yeah.
We don't know how true that is, but that's one of the reasons that we have that in the first place. But yeah, this six-sided shape in the middle, that's what 119 intends to focus on now. And where they go with this blew my mind.
It's so crazy. So hold on to that for a second, because I just want to reiterate. I just want to touch on what you just said. I just want to quote. What is this guy's name, by the way? I don't even know what his name is. Do you know who he is?
That's terrible. I thought,
sorry, guy, if you're watching this, we probably should have looked up your name. But you're the 9-1. Well, let's just call him the Testamentalist.
Right.
The Testamentalist. He goes on to say, however, like the menorah, the Lion of Judah, or the shofar, which are biblical examples of Jewish symbolism, hexagram is shared in other historical contexts as well. For example, Hinduism and Buddhism. When you think about it, it's a little bit silly. I mean, we understand that in countless religions that they make use of candles. I don't know that a seven candlestick is made use of. I don't think you will find a menorah used in other pagan religions, except for Christianity ripping off Judaism. You see a lot of menorahs.
You will find the shofar, though. The shofar turns up a lot as a horn trumpet. We've got the horn of hope that turns up in a load of northern European and Scandinavian ideas. And in England, the pagans often had this horn of plenty idea with the fruit coming out of the end, or a drink that never ends. And that's all made from that same trumpet shape from a ram's horn.
What about the Vikings? Did the Viking have a bit of horn action going on?
No, that's a fallacy. Vikings never had horns on their helmets.
No, but they had helmets with horns. What are you talking about?
No, that's totally made up.
See it everywhere.
That's totally a myth. Can you imagine running into battle with loads of spikes on your hat and you're swinging your axe and it's hitting your helmet all the time? No, it's made up. It's not true.
All right, fine. But it also doesn't surprise me that, and think about this, the Lion of Judah is not found in any other religion. This is his point. It's probably because
Judah is not found in any other religion.
Yeah, it's a bit of a hiccup there. It doesn't surprise me. However,
no giggling. People hate the giggling. Okay.
No, come on. It is funny. But lions, right, are used in many different religions, and certainly not least Hinduism and Buddhism. It's kind of a weird one, Guy. Now, it goes on to say that the six-pointed star is also used in the occult and Freemasonry. That's a favourite to pick on Christians. They hate Freemasonry.
They really do.
They hate the occult, but they hate Freemasonry even more. And then he paralysed the Freemasons' definition of the six-pointed star with the tree of knowledge of good and evil from the Garden of Eden. Now, he doesn't go anywhere with that. He just says, now, if that sounds interesting, we encourage you to do your own study on that independently. Anyway.
Yes, right. And I'd just like to say to the people at home, if they're interested in learning about the Hebrew language, we can offer you this advice. Go and study the Hebrew language. We're not going to bother doing that for you. Wow.
Now at this point we get up to minute 6, right? And he reiterates, and I love this, the testamentalist says, the origins of the hexagram are unclear. Again, right at that point, we should have run the credits and that'd be it. But he doesn't finish. He goes on to say, we cannot definitively state that the origins are Jewish or the origins are from the pagan occult as opposed to the Christian cult or anyway. So, and they're the only two. He gives you two choices. It's either Jewish or it's the origins are from the pagan occult. But as you pointed out, I always understood hexagrams and pentagrams to find their origins in geometry. That makes sense, doesn't it?
It would be extremely unlikely, I think, to have to wait to the birth of a Jewish nation before someone had the bright idea of putting two triangles on top of each other at a bit of an angle. Hey, Ezekiel, you won't believe what I've done.
Look what happens when we do this. Look. Oh, man, check it out.
Oh, that's
cool. Why have we never done that before?
You can't do that. You can't do the Masonry.
It's a new religion. We've never really... Yeah. Anyway, so... But I mean, it's silly to say it's either A or B. Well, do you think maybe it's just decoration? I mean, you go to the synagogue in Capernaum, and it is clearly amongst. It's no more prominent than any of the other decorations there. He goes on to say, history demonstrates that both groups, that's Jews and the pagan occult, both groups, entertain the symbol in their worship practices. The occult links the hexagram to the worship of Saturn. Now, maybe there's something in that. We don't really know. Again, that's speculative. But as you point out, I've never met a Jew that worships the Star of David.
Well, they do go on at length, which we're going to talk about now, the relationship, they say, but we'll give you some of the reasons why we believe that it's connected to Saturn, and they go on about that, which we will talk about. But what they don't talk about is the connection between the star in itself and the Messianic line, and all of the prophecy that runs through the whole Tanakh, which connects the idea of a star being connected with a Messiah. They don't, and I was kind of surprised why that they didn't do that, because that would have been a great way to try and tie Jesus into the argument. But clearly, tying Jesus into the argument would have been more dangerous to their argument, because it would have somehow made Jesus this either pagan Jew or pagan occultist.
Okay, yeah, because they don't want to do that. I think, okay, so yours, now I didn't even think of this, but I do recall in Revelation, Jesus is referred to as the morning star.
Right.
Whereas King of Tyre is referred to as the morning star, and Christians generally...
Star of the morning and the morning star are two different things, but they kind of relate to the same thing. And they say that the first one is Lucifer, and then the argument is the second one isn't. But you've also got this Davidic idea of this star rising that it turns up an awful lot. That's why Bar Kokhba was the star of was the morning star. Because,
and that goes right back to in Numbers chapter 24, Balaam's fourth prophecy. It's verse 17. I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star shall come out of Jacob, a scepter shall rise out of Israel and batter the brow of Moab and destroy all the sons of tumult.
Right, and since that point, the star's been associated with a messianic figure which will come and redeem Israel. So it seems perfectly logical for me that the star would be a symbol that would turn up again and again in things around your house and in your state flag. But that was completely
okay. So in that sense, it's a symbol of messianic hope.
Yeah. And
that's
of salvation, and that God's got a plan for you, and that you are a state in yourself, and that there's going to be a leader that comes and redeems the country, and all this stuff. And it just completely was floated over. In return, they gave us Saturn, and then the idea is that.
Well, hang on, before the way that we got to Saturn. Sorry to interrupt you. But instead of even mentioning, I don't believe they mention this verse in Numbers chapter 24, right, in relation to the star and its importance in Jewish eschatology, if you like. Instead of mentioning this verse, they go to Amos chapter 5, verse 26. Why do they go to Amos chapter 5, verse 26, Jason?
Because there is in fact, it's the longest speech given in the book of Acts, where Stephen was kind of trapped. This guy Stephen, who apparently, although we don't really hear about him ever again or before, was this prophet type person who expounded all this wisdom, apparently because he was full of the Holy Spirit, and he was kind of cornered, and he gave a diatribe against the Pharisees that were talking to him.
A rant, actually, according to the Testamentalist, he refers to it as a rant. Good description. Please continue.
And during this, he quotes from Amos, and 119 uses this quote to try and pin the star that apparently is used in this quote with Saturn and by extension, the Star of David.
Did you just punch your microphone?
I totally punched the microphone. If you're listening to the podcast of this, I'm sorry.
So now the interesting thing about that, Stephen's paraphrasing, and he paraphrases all over the shop. He makes some interesting mistakes in that rant too. I think, if I remember correctly.
There's one worth mentioning where he says that 75 families were sent for. In the New Testament version in Acts, he says 75 families were pulled down, but the quote he's quoting from in the Tanakh is 70. Now, what's kind of weird is that there are 3 areas in the Tanakh which mention this part when 70 families were called, the families of Jacob were called. One of them was changed in the Septuagint to fit Stephen's account of the text, but the other 2 weren't. And then that is used by some Christians as proof that there are errors in the Tanakh. I'm not going to go there. The other one was that he said that the patriarchs were buried in Shechem when they're actually buried in Hebron, which is some 90 kilometers away. It's a big enough distance that would have been super noticeable for the people listening. It's not like they were next door to each other. 90 kilometers would have, it's a lot of ground to cover. So you have to take what he said with a pinch of salt, in that he probably didn't exactly know what he was talking about at the time.
Amos chapter 5, verse 26, this is what it says. And you shall carry off your king, Sukkot, and Kiyun, the images you have made for yourselves of your astral deity. That's what I've got. And it is generally understood that those astral deities that are mentioned there are both deities that are in reference to the planet Saturn. Now, this thing gets really, really crazy, right? Yeah. This is where everything gets really, really crazy, and the testamentalist kind of loses the plot a little bit. Go for it.
To prove the link between Stephen's reference to the Amos verse, and I just want to remind people here to remember that Stephen references Amos, and Amos references symbols which represent these astral deities, because I'm going to go back to that in a minute. To prove this point, 119 takes NASA imaging of Saturn and shows on the top this weird magnetic anomaly which has a hexagon on the polar cap of Saturn. Now, that's very cool. I didn't know that, and it's kind of cool to go and look at.
How cool is it? Listen, can we just pause there for a second? Because some people would be going, what? So not only is there a hexagon on the North Pole of Saturn, a very distinct hexagon shape, but it's rotating. And the other interesting thing about it is that if I'm correct, so I believe this is true, Saturn is a gas giant. It's a gas planet. There is this rotating cloud, hexagon cloud on the North Pole of Saturn. Now, I don't look at that and go, oh my goodness, it's the occult, we're going to die. I look at that and I think, isn't our creator amazing? And I remember the first time I discovered this, not that I personally discovered it, but I remember the first time that it came to my attention, and I thought, wow, oh my goodness, what an amazing thing, our creator. And I have no doubt he created it from day one. And when he did so, when he created the heavens and the earth, he said, you know what, pretty good, like that.
What he didn't do is say, I'm going to put this hexagon here because I want famous and mystical occultists from beyond the dawn of history to look at this planet with their amazing telescope eyes and see a hexagon, and from that create a long line of artificial pagan religion based on the hexagon and the hexagram.
See that hexagon stop sign and go, you know what, can do better than that.
Yeah.
Can put some little triangles on the tip of each of those, and we'll have six-pointed star, and we'll get. Now, by the way, when you think of the occult, do you think of a hexagram, or do you think of I actually think of a pentagram when I think of the occult. All the movies that I've ever seen about the occult always have a pentagram, right?
They do have a pentagram. That's maybe a conversation for another video, because I know a little bit about that. But it's true that you never come up with the hexagram or the hexagon. But what's kind of fun is that when the host of the video from 119 asks the question, and I know you at home will be asking, how did those ancient pagans and ancient Jews who Amos was admonishing for following pagan ways, how did they know that there was a hexagon on top of the planet Saturn, which was barely visible to the human eye?
This is the best part of the whole video. I watched this over and over again. I love this part of the video, particularly because, as we mentioned, Ministries, their motto is test everything. Please continue, Jason.
How did they know? Because they had occult powers. That's how they knew.
If I may quote verbatim, how do we know? Because, quote, the occult is real. Evil is real. This symbol is real. That's what he said.
What's worth mentioning very quickly is that there is not a Star of David on the top of the planet Saturn.
No, it's a stop sign.
It's a stop sign, which should have been enough
rotating
to stop. If you can see that far, you should stop.
You should stop. It's a rotating gas stop sign. It's yet another example of the awesomeness of our Creator. It's not a reason to look up into the cosmos with fear. And actually, you know what? There's a verse about that, isn't it? There is. Hang on. Jeremiah chapter 10. It's Jeremiah chapter 10 that says, don't learn the ways of the nations. Don't be terrified at the signs of the heavens, for the nations are terrified at them. Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 2.
I would like to very quickly, we spoke about how Amos was admonishing the Jewish people for using symbols that came from heavenly deities, which you shouldn't do. God appeared at Horeb. He didn't appear. He had no body, no form. It's just him speaking to his people. And if we find any interpretation which involves any physical form, then that's idolatry. It's pagan. Now, what's interesting is that the symbol we have or the Christian church has for Jesus often rotates around this idea of a cross. However, the cross in the text doesn't appear. There's no cross and there's no crucify in the Greek text of the New Testament. That might blow some people's minds, but it's just true. The crux does appear. There's a long stake that appears, and that's actually what the Romans used. Now, if you go back to Chaldees and Babylon, you will find that there was a symbol for a god Tammuz, which was an equidistant three-pointed cross. Now, that means that there were two arms at the top, which were the same length as the arm that came down. That was used to worship Tammuz. It's a sign of the Tau, the mystic Tau, which is the capital of Tammuz, for generations, and was adopted.
That's like a capital T, right?
It's like
that's
a capital T with a short bottom, so it's kind of it's like that, and that, right?
Yep. Seen it.
Now that was adopted by many different faith groups as it became established. Not least of which was Constantine, who was a worship of Tammuz now it's interesting that Constantine only decided he needed to get baptized on his deathbed, and up to that point, the coins that he printed represented Tammuz. The way that he prayed represented Tammuz, and the way he allowed his soldiers to pray represented Tammuz. And what he saw in the sky wasn't a cross; it was a sign of Tammuz. And how do we know it wasn't a cross? Well, the cross symbol was actually something else that is taken from Tammuz, and it's kind of why most scholars believe it's why Christ is the word used to represent Jesus. Tammuz, who was later turned into Bacchus by the Greeks, is sometimes represented with a headband, and on this headband there are full-on crosses, equidistant four-pointed crosses, and these crosses are called Kiro, and Kiro is the first part of Christ, and it's to represent the cross that is in Tammuz's stable of symbols. So what's kind of odd is that you can go into any Christian church now, and at the front, the symbol that's represented in Christian menorahs, that's represented in jewelry, and it's no small thing that when Paul was out looking for converts, and he didn't ever do that within places where Jews lived, he only ever went to places where pagans lived, he'd come across these people who famously wore small wooden T's around their necks and said, you know what? That looks exactly like the cross that Jesus died on. You're okay. You can believe in Jesus and keep your imagery. But you can go into a church and you'll find crosses which don't appear in the New Testament. You'll find images of crosses which don't appear in the New Testament. And I'm still waiting for 119's video on why the cross is a pagan symbol. And people pray to the cross. You have to kneel at the foot of the cross. You have to carry your cross. You have to think about Jesus on the cross with his arms out like Moses at the Red Sea. Actually, an image, it's a bit Da Vinci Code, but that's an image of Moses at the Red Sea when Jesus is doing that with his arms out. That's not how he died. The crux, crux, you can look up in any biblical dictionary, and they'll tell you that it's not a cross. It's a single stake. Oddly, the Greek definition for crucifixion is actually impalement. I'm not so sure about that. And I know I veered off a little bit, but I think it's important to notice that 119's video is directing you to something that people don't worship when they should utterly be looking at something that people do. I think that's a very good
point. No, I really like that point. And I think if people want to double check what it is that you're saying, I recall the Christian Commentary Dictionary of Hebrew and Greek words, the Vines, has an excellent little summary on the cross that I would recommend people go and have a look at in that regard. But you're absolutely right. People do worship, they pray to, they carry the. It's a very, very physical part of a Christian's worship, whereas I've never seen a Jew worship a Star of David. And just to reiterate their own words, we don't know exactly where it came from. We don't know if there was if it's two Dalits joined together. We don't really know if it was a symbol that was on David's actual shield. These are some of the, it's speculatory. We just don't really know of its origins. I'll tell you what we do know. We do know it was put on our. We were given yellow stars to wear as armbands or on our chest during the Holocaust. And really, I do find it fitting that when Israel became a state again, that we chose that to put on our flag to say to really stick it in the face of our enemies, to say we're still here. We're still here and we're not going away.
I think it's fair to say that the Star of David on the Shield of David is how Jews want to and are recognized by the world, and the menorah and the shofar, which were mentioned, are personal aspects of a Jew's faith. And why you'd want to take personal aspects of a Jew's faith and turn that into something that appears on mugs and flags, I don't know. But the Star of David as an image that represents the people of David, how anyone could have an argument with that is beyond me.
So, in closing, when you look at these kind of arguments in the Star of David, Google will gravitate you towards some of the most horridly anti-Semitic rubbish, and it would appear that 119 has condensed that down to a 15-minute video. So it is offensive, it is speculative, and based on speculation, it entirely demonizes the Jewish state. I don't know. Maybe in the future we might have a look at a few other. I'll tell you what. Let's leave it to the listeners.
Yeah,
if they want us to critique anything else of the Testamentalists, we'd be up for it.
And if you've got a favorite video, or the least favorite video, if you've seen a meme that they've put up and you think that it's worth us talking about and digging into, let us know. You can leave comments under this audio or video, depending on how you're looking at this. Or you can just message us directly on Facebook. There'll be links to our profiles under this video or podcast, depending on how you're looking at it. So thank you very much, Jono, for taking time out today to have this chat with me. I found it really super fun. And Jono, you can find over on truthtouyorg. He's got a ton of audio over there.
And Jason on spiritualbabies.net.
But yeah, we really want to hear from you at home. Maybe we'll even make a Facebook page for these videos. See you soon. Bye-bye.
This is just to throw into the flag. From 1901, there was a competition, an Australian flag competition. And the original 1901 Australian flag had two hexagrams. One as the Commonwealth Star, the large Commonwealth Star underneath the Union Jack, and another one in the Southern Cross. They were evil, don't you understand? Came from Saturn. Two Saturns, work of the occult and Freemasonry, Hinduism and Buddhism. Absolutely satanic in nature, and that's why we don't have it anymore. We had to put another point in it so that we wouldn't be struck down.
And imagine every time you drink pomegranate, you're drinking from a fruit which has a hexagram on the top in the form of its, the little bud at the top. If you fold it back, it makes a hexagram.
Even worse than that, bees. Bees absolutely do the work of Satan, because inside their hives, where no one else can see them, they're busy doing one thing, and that's making little hexagrams.
You know what that means?
Over and over again.
That means that when Israel was called the land of milk and honey, it was actually a warning about how wicked and terrible it is, because honey comes from bees.
You know what? We should be careful, because one might make a video about that.
I haven't thought of that.
You're absolutely right. You're onto something there.
I did worry when I saw the Moses connection with the arms. So can I say that? Because there's going to be people who are now going to make memes saying, look, Moses was telling us all along.